I'll be speaking to Nooraddeen Mokhiber. He's worked for the Syrian Network for Human Rights. He's doing media work for his home city of Moadamiya, Syria. He has studied English literature at Damascus University. He's speaking to us from Metz in eastern France. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Hello.
So, how did it feel 6 weeks ago when Syrians swept into Aleppo and then one city after another? What were you feeling when you heard about it?
For me, as it happened with, I guess, all Syrians, all of our work stopped, all of our activities stopped. We were just watching in front of TV, standing in front of TVs to watch the news minute by minute. We were so happy that the Syrian factions started to think as we think, as activists, to liberate areas from the Assad regime, from Iranians, and from Russians. So we spent all the weeks before the fall down of the regime just talking to people inside and watching TV news.
Did you uh, did you know it was coming? Did you have a feeling this would happen?
Personally, yes, I guess, because the situation in the region saw us let us see the whole picture that the international community has finally decided to get the region rid of the Iranians, and the Iranian and Syria was full of Iranians and Iranian militias. So after Lebanon, we saw it was coming to Syria also. So for personally, I saw hopes.
Now, I assume you've been calling people at home. What are they saying about what's going on now?
Uh, at home, at my city, Moadamiya, and in most regions of Syria, we are all like living a dream. We don't want anyone to wake us up from that dream. We're afraid to wake up and see that Assad is still there, but he is not, fortunately. So we're full of joy at one hand, and the other hand, there are many unsolved problems that are still going on. For example, the issue of detainees and the forced displaced people, including my brother. We've never found a corp, his corp or his name in the list leaked for the detainees killed under torture, and the same as 2,100 Syrians detained by the Assad regime. They just like gone with the wind. No, nothing about them. Some mass graves found here and there, but no names, no identified bodies. Another thing about the areas controlled by SDF in the north, in the eastern Syria, this issue is not solved yet. Another issue, the Israelis going into Syrian parts in the south. So there are many other issues that are worrying us, but the main problem for the whole region, if not the world, is gone, which is Assad.
When was your brother taken? What was his name?
His name is Mohammed. He was working with the national body of the Ba'ath Party, with the regime before the revolution. He was taken from his job Damascus in 2012 because he used to help aiding the injured people during peaceful protests, using his powers to go through checkpoints, taking injured people to doctors, bringing doctors to the city, buying medicine to those injured, to those weak in my city. Uh, so he was taken, and we never heard about him anymore.
I'm so sorry about that. So you're from Moadamiya. That's very near Damascus.
Yeah, just a few kilometers away from Damascus city center.
Could you remind us what that city went through in terms of the siege and the poison gas?
My city was one of the very first cities or places that stood up with Dara and Homs to join the Syrian revolution against the regime. And that's why the regime did everything against its people. First started with invasions, military invasions, detaining people, then became like invading the city, torturing people at their homes, burning bodies. And after that came the era of siege, where the regime and Iranian militias surrounded the city, prevented everything from coming in or anyone from going out. It was like it was like hell. As I remember it now, it's like yesterday, shaking, remembering every single hard day I went through with my family there and all the civilians in the city, with no medicine, with no clear water, with no food, no, just chilling, bombing, and so people were and children especially dying out of malnutrition and out of hunger, out of lack of medicine, and not to mention the bombing.
And there was a poison gas attack too, right?
Exactly, yeah. It was like the regime couldn't break the lines of the revolutionaries to enter the city for one entire year, from 2012 to 2013. And exactly on the 21st of August 2013, the regime, after attacking the eastern Ghouta with chemical gas, they attacked my city, Moadamiya, with three rockets carrying poison gas, sarin gas. Um, uh, it's also like I can't go through all the details because it's hard for me, but
Sure.
um, the same moments after attacking us with sarin gas, they started to invade the city. The regime started to invade the city, and the warplanes were attacking civilians and the field hospital, killing people. We found people sleeping. They were sleeping but dead out of gas. Uh, 63 people, I guess, as far as I remember, 63 people died because of sarin gas, and thousands of others were injured, including me, as I was helping other injured people in the field hospital. It was like transmitted to me by touching them. Um, yeah, it was like I couldn't say hell, but um, it was like mass killing of people at a very small place by the regime.
But you weren't conquered, or the city wasn't conquered. You held out, still under siege for more years.
Yeah, yeah, of course. After that, after like 4 months of that, the military factions at the city agreed to a truce with the regime that lasted from January 2014, but lasted for a few months. After that, the regime re-shelled the city and uh, things stayed the same until 2016, October 2016, when the day came for us to be displaced.
So I was interviewing you then 8 years ago, maybe now even more than 8 years ago, um, just before you were leaving the city. So what was it like? They put you on buses or something?
Yeah, first they agreed. It was like a forced agreement. Either you leave the city or you will be all killed. There were like 45,000 of civilians in the city at the time. And so we all had to accept because, to save the civilians, not to save anything else, and to save our dignity. Sorry. We didn't want to shake hands with the Assad regime or the killers of us or the ones who besieged us or the one who detained our brothers. So we had to go, and they prepared buses for the ones who wanted to leave or forced to leave. Yes, I remember talking to you at the time, and it was very difficult to be taken from your roots, your land, and your home, from your neighborhood, away from your friends, away from your family members. I said goodbye to my father, who passed away like 30 years ago when I was a kid. I said goodbye to my mother, my brothers and sister. Um, I, I, sh- I shed tears a lot. I couldn't stop crying for all the trip from Moadamiya to northern Syria. I couldn't just remember the days I spent in Moadamiya my whole life before that, and think of every single detail of memory. It was like, as I said, taking a flower out of uh, out of earth.
So your members of your family did remain behind, your mother and other siblings?
Yeah, I was like two brothers with their families, my mother and my sister. Yeah, they stayed at home.
And are they still there?
They're still there. They suffered a lot after we were displaced because as I continued my activity against the regime, my peaceful activity in journalism or human rights or any single news I used to publish regarding the situation in my city, they were harassed by the regime. They sent many patrols to my house to frighten my family, to force me to stop saying anything about the regime or what's happening in my city. So they suffered a lot because of me, but because of the regime.
So you were in Idlib, up the north, what is it, the north
Yeah.
west,
Yeah.
and but you didn't stay there that long. What was it like living in Idlib?
The minute we arrived in Idlib, it was like a new place. Imagine living in a house for 4 years or 5 6 years, and then seeing the whole liberated areas. The prices were low, the environment somehow clear and nice, the people welcoming, and it was like going from prison. And we were in a prison. So we were happy the first few days, but after that we faced the situation. We faced the true life. You can say the true life. You have to find a job there. You have to do anything to help the family first, and to stay at the same line of the revolution. You cannot stop being an activist, and you have to find a work to help the family. So it was difficult after that. I stayed for like 2 months only. I was indirectly threatened by HTS itself at the time, not to communicate with English or talking to foreign media. Indirectly, they sent me a message by a friend, and I remember I had an interview with the BBC radio, and after a couple hours, just a couple of hours, a car bomb exploded near me and my wife at the entrance of the house we were living in Idlib city. So after that, I decided to leave Idlib to
Mm,
Turkey.
yeah, yeah. So you went first to Turkey, is that right?
Yeah, I went to Turkey to Gaziantep.
Say that city again.
Gaziantep city.
See, could you get work there? What was it like for refugees in Turkey?
It was good for me having relations with people working on the Syrian cause. I made it to find a job with the Syrian Network for Human Rights after I arrived in 2 3 months, which helped me first, but improved me a lot. Uh, in general, it, it has been difficult for Syrians in Turkey. It's so difficult for them because there are laws. but laws are not applied to protect refugees, to protect Syrians, the brothers in religion with the Turkish, as they say. But to this day, they are still displacing people to Syria. My friend told me a couple of days ago that he saw buses in a square in Istanbul carrying Syrians to be displaced to Syria to this day. So I have a bad impression about Turkey. Unfortunately, now maybe politically and other aspects, they are helping the new Syrian administration maybe. But for me, I remember the first week I arrived in Turkey, I was with my wife and a friend with his wife at a park in the city. A group of Turkish people, young Turkish people, attacked us, saying Syrians go to Syria. This was the first week I arrived in Turkey.
Wow.
Not to mention many times being stopped by Turkish checkpoints in the city. Yeah, it was difficult, so difficult.
So then when did you leave Turkey?
Um, when I saw that there is no luck for me in Turkey, it wasn't a kind of place to build a life in Turkey. I applied to the French embassy in Turkey and got the visa in November 2021 when I arrived here.
So you've been in France in the east there since 2021. So what are feelings for Syrians in France or in eastern France where you've been?
For now, you mean at the time?
What are the feelings from the French towards Syrians? Excuse me.
Um, it's totally different from Turkey, of course. The French people are welcoming. The majority, I'm not sure, but the majority or the people I knew or faced, or for example, in official administration buildings, the employees, all welcoming, all good, and I haven't experienced any bad thing about that.
Even with the rise of Le Pen and the extreme right, that hasn't been a problem.
Yeah, I haven't experienced anything. Maybe it's maybe I'm saying because the region I'm living in, there is no majority for the far right or so. I'm not sure, but we heard some incidents in other parts of France. But for me personally, nothing happened.
Do you plan to go back to Syria? Are you thinking about that? What is your situation?
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. As I said, the day I left Moadamiya, the first place that I will be back, even if it's after 1,000 years. But now it's a bit difficult because the law prevents me from returning or communicating with the Syrian authorities or anything like that, the refugee law here. So we're hearing news that the government would allow Syrians with residencies to go to visit their families, to visit their cities and return, which is a good step if it happens because, for example, the kids are at school now. There are some commitments here. You can't just pack up bags and leave. We're not living in northern Syria anymore to just get in the car and return.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So, final question. Do you think Syria is on track now to win the freedoms that people suffered so much for 10 years ago?
I would say definitely. As I started by saying that the main problem and the main cancer for not only Syrians but the whole world is now over, which is the Assad regime, the Iranian militias, and the Russians. Those are like the enemies of humanity, not just Syrians. So as they are now not on the scene, yes, but there are still some steps to gain for the revolution. From my point of view, is not over yet. The revolution's demands We're specific. We want dignity, we want freedom, we want accountability, we want democracy. So when the all steps are achieved, yes, we say we have our freedom back. But for now, as for example, as I say, there will be no one to be detained anymore. There will be no one to be tortured anymore. There will be no one to be killed anymore. Yeah, this is a huge step to stop the killings, to stop the detention centers, the slaughterhouses, in other words. Yes, it's a huge step, and we're looking forward. For me, I see the good things coming to Syrians. We have worries, of course, about the management, the current management. Of course, we have worries, but as I said, and I repeat, the main cancer is now getting rid of. So it's the future is promising. I wish.
Well, thank you so much for talking with me.
Thank you so much for coming back to me after 8 years, of course.